Okay, well, making history, State Senator Adriano Espaillat takes steps forward to becoming the first Dominican-American elected to Congress, holding the lead in the Democratic primary to replace Representative Charles B. Rangel. Here to discuss this and more is political commentator J.C. Polanco. Thanks for coming and thanks for helping us out today.
Hey, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. So talk to me about this 13th district. You know, we had a debate here in the studio last week. It's a hotly contested race. So what does this mean for not only Espaillat, but Keith Wright, who, as far as I've been told, has not yet conceded the race? And I want to talk about the Bronx Democrats. So let's start.
First of all, for purposes of full disclosure, I'm a Republican, so I'm completely impartial when it comes to Democrats killing each other.
Okay.
And it's always a good day when they do. But I always wanted to be the first Dominican congressman, so I'm a little upset this morning. It's okay, though. I'll get over it. You know, it's an exciting time, I think, for the Dominican community of Washington Heights, Northern Manhattan, and the Bronx.
Okay.
You know, you could always measure how successful a group of people are, especially an immigrant group of people are in the United States through several metrics. One is how many small businesses have they opened, right?
Right.
How many people are in the workforce? How many people have graduated from college? And another one is how many elected officials serve them in local, state, and federal government. Now, we got one in 1991 with Linares in the city council. Then slowly but surely, we went up the ranks in the assembly and then the state senate. And finally, for the first time since the major wave of Dominicans arriving in the United States after the Civil War of 1965 on the island, the Dominicans were able to get one member of their group in the Congress.
Wow.
Now, that's a huge deal. Now, I know a lot of people in the district are upset about the kind of talk about ethnic background and ethnic groups and first. And I can see why that would upset some people because you're supposed to vote for the best person. Who cares? That's in the perfect world. That's the world that I come from.
Right.
But in the real tribal world of New York City politics, this is huge. And throughout history, every group has been proud. The African Americans are proud of the fact that they have the first president. We see the Italians excited about Cuomo and LaGuardia. And you go down the list, Irish with President Kennedy. Now the Dominican people are saying, hey, we finally get a member of Congress. I don't think it makes it a bad thing. It just makes it a historic thing. And now the district has to heal. This was a very divisive primary.
Right.
And because it's so diverse, you have so many large groups of African American, Hispanics, and when I say Hispanics, I include Puerto Ricans and Dominicans.
In the district that they're all fighting to get into.
It's not a monolithic district.
Right,
It's
okay.
very diverse. You have rich, you have poor,
Right.
You have people that care about affordable housing and those that care about tax cuts. So you have a very, very diverse district, and it was so contentious that I think now it's important for the district to heal. Now, the Republicans have no shot of ever winning that seat. If they did, trust me, I'd run. However, whoever won last night will ultimately win the November election. And frankly, now Keith Wright will have to wait. He wants to make sure every vote is counted. You can't really blame him. The Board of Election, which I was president of once, has a long history of taking a long time to make votes official. So maybe he's waiting a little longer. But from the news that I've read, there's only 900 paper ballots, and he is losing by over 1,000 votes. So even if every single paper ballot goes to Keith Wright, it's going to be very difficult for him to win. I think the Bronx Democrats are going to be in great shape. They're a powerful party, and I think that they're going to come back and heal. They understand the divisions were created because, quite frankly, this was contentions, and people were going to be divisive no matter what. This was the thriller in Manila, in New York City, and it happened last night.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So what steps do you think happens next for Espaillat now? What does he need to do?
Espaillat has to really bring this district together. This was so divided based on racial lines.
Right.
And it's historically the African American congressional district out of Harlem.
Right.
So he's going to have to really, extend an olive branch to that community. You know, fortunately, Senator Bill Perkins, who's an icon in Harlem politics, endorsed Senator Espaillat on Saturday, and I'm sure he'd be the bridge to be able to bring those communities together. And I think that Senator Espaillat has a long road ahead, but he has to stay focused on uniting the district. I saw Borough President Diaz mention and Chairman Marcos Crespo last night say that they're ready to bring the party together and work closely to them. So there's no, I know these men, there's no bad blood between them. I think they're going to be just fine. They just have to work together and get it done.
So you think the Democrats will come around?
They will, but you know what? I'm tired of talking about Democrats. They have all the fun here. I mean, what's going on? Can we talk a little bit?
All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit.
They're good
so,
guys.
so the House Benghazi report finds that there's no evidence of wrongdoing by Hillary Clinton. Give us your thoughts on that.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
You know, it's interesting. I can see why Democrats and Hillary Clinton would think that this Benghazi report was a witch hunt or a partisan ploy to attack the Democratic presidential candidate for president. I totally understand. But there is something to be said about this report, and there's something to be said about how Hillary is handling this report. I think that Hillary dismissing this as, yeah, this is old news, I don't think is presidential. I know that I've called Trump out here many times on BronxNet, but I don't think Hillary's response to this report was presidential. I think she really needs to address some issues. For example, why was it that the political consultants were in the White House advising her on how to handle this and the president on how to handle this politically, instead of being honest as to what happened at Benghazi? This wasn't about a videotape. This was a terrorist attack. She knew it. She lied about it. And I think she should address that. And I'm no fan of Donald Trump. I mean, that's clear. But this is something that is going to be a real problem, I think, for her, especially how she so dismisses the report. Now, on the other hand, she says, I went through this already. There was already a report. There was nothing new. And clearly, the report doesn't show that she directly did anything wrong. So the Democrats and the Hillary supporters have a claim when they say she directly did not do anything that caused Benghazi. There's some underlying factors as far as security, et cetera.
Right.
And the report, even the Republican Party's report regarding what happened in Benghazi, does not point to any direct misdeeds by Hillary Clinton. However, there is an ethical challenge here that has to be addressed.
So what do you think her response should, how should she have responded? Forget about Democrat or Republican. You're talking it's not presidential.
Right.
So it's not what we want to see in a candidate. It's not what we want to see, the response isn't something that we want to see leading our country. Is that that's what
Right,
you're saying?
I don't think so.
So how does she address something almost this damaging to her?
I think she really has to say what steps have been taken so that this doesn't happen again. I think she should address the fact that she regrets how this went down, but this idea that there was nothing I could do, there was nothing that could happen to save those people at Benghazi, there was no military people that we could deploy, is just not good enough. I think she should admit that there were mistakes. She feels terrible about the fact that these people were killed, that if she could do it all over again, this would never happen again, and that these are the steps that she's working with Secretary John Kerry, or will work with the Department of State so this doesn't happen again, other than, this Pontius Pilate game that they play in Washington. Oh, I wash my hands of this, nothing to do with me, no direct misdeeds. I don't think it's fair. Because right now, if I were a Democrat consultant, I say, Donald Trump is doing a terrible job. I think this is your opportunity to go finish him. And this right here was a terrible response, in my opinion.
So let's talk about Mr. Trump. He vows to rip up the trade deals and confront China. What do you think of that?
I think that's so, I can't even, what trade deals is he breaking up? Does he really think this is some sort of dictatorship where you just walk into the White House and tear up these deals? That's not how it works. I think that his message of bringing jobs back and making America great again by bringing jobs back from China and Mexico is something that it's his mantra. And I think that the only way he can do that is by tearing up these trade deals, which is an impossibility. Now, one thing that I think is interesting about his claims of tearing up these trade deals is how the U.S. Chamber of Commerce attacked him almost immediately. Now, I got to tell you, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is very friendly to my team. They're very Republican friendly, and they're very business and trade friendly. And for them to attack the front runner of the Republican Party for the presidency is incredible. Think about it. They say that his plan of tearing up these deals would cause a recession and will cost people their jobs. Even the AFL-CIO came out and said, you're going to cause people to get pink slips. So I think that there's something very childish, elementary, basic about this idea of just tearing up these trade deals without any really specific discussion as to how maybe you could curtail the amount of trade that's happening or curtail the amut of jobs that are leaving the country.
So it's his focus is that he wants to bring the jobs here, and he thinks he'll, by doing that, like it'll gain him what?
He thinks that he thinks he's going to be able to win in the
Votes
rural parts of Pennsylvania and Ohio, right? Which is really what he needs. By saying things like, those jobs that left you to China and Mexico, I'm going to bring them back. What he doesn't say to them is that it's an impossibility. If you want to bring those jobs back, consumers are going to have to pay 6 and 10 times more for those products because labor here is more expensive than it is in China and in Mexico. Now, I think there are other things that he can say or do. I don't even know. Can I tell you? I don't even know what he can do at this point. I'm part of this group of Republicans that really does not like his proposals. I don't think they're. I don't think in any way that they're well thought out. And I think that at this point he has to start turning the page, becoming more presidential with his policies and with his character and how he behaves. But this here about tearing trade deals up without recognizing that this is a world economy, we're intertwined, and we cannot afford all of the products that we purchase today if all of them were made in the USA. It's just impossible.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You did great.
All right. In other news, Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. hosted his annual Caribbean Heritage Celebration at the Bronx Museum of the Arts. recognizing the vibrant history and culture of the community. Our BronxNet reporter, Christina Pagan, has more on this story.